Hello, my squishies! Welcome to the Felt Along. I'm gonna give everybody a couple of minutes to come in, settle down. Oh, knock my camera. Get yourselves a cup of tea. But Happy New Year! We made it! So, while everybody who normally joins me live is settling in and getting online, I'm going to do a quick introduction to needle felting for you guys who haven't joined me before. So in your kits, and if somebody in the comments could say hello, that would be perfect, and that you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, if someone could say hello in the comments, that'd be brilliant. But while everyone's settling in, I'm going to give you guys a brief introduction to needle felting and what's in your kit. So, start off with, in your kit you'll have a foam mat, so like this thing here. Always needle felt onto the foam mat. This protects your surfaces, makes it easy for needle felting, and yeah, does things like that. I've just seen people saying hello. I will talk random nonsense for this whole thing. I apologise in advance. Yeah, so you've got your foam mat to felt onto. You've got your pre-felt here. So this is wool fibre that's been slightly felted together, but it's going to felt together more as we felt onto it. This is going to form the basis, and it's got the picture for you to, well, it's got a vague guideline for you to follow while you're following along with me. In your kit you've also got your needles. So these are your felting needles. These are incredibly sharp and painful if you stab yourself. Please do not stab yourself with them. They might break, that's okay. Try and find the end and dispose of them safely. It's always a really good idea to count your needles in and out at the beginning and end of each session, so that you know if you've lost any, because you don't want to be standing on these. So you can felt with these just as they are, or you can use, oh, I'm out of screen. You can use one of the holders, and I'll show you briefly how to use this. So hopefully I'm focused. So you've got your holder end, and then you've got this little peg. So you just pop this little peg out. It's got a bigger end and a smaller end. Take one of the needles, and with the hooked end of the needle, pop it into the wee groove with the hook going over the smaller end, and then you can just pop it back in. I'll do that one more time so you can get it. So you've got the little needle, the holder like this, pull it out, you've got the fatter end and the thinner end, put the needle in that little groove with the hook over the thinner end, and then pop it back in, and this makes it a little bit easier to hold the needles. You don't have to use this. I tend not to, but it can make it really accessible. So when you're needle felting, you can hold one or you can hold multiple ones at the same time. You can get by these ends that will hold multiple ones. So you can get like 3 and 6 holders as well. But to get you started, we're going to just do one. And when you're felting, you always want to felt straight in. Even this one's a little bit bent. Straight in. You never want to bend the needle as you're going in, because that's when your needles will break. So the aim is always to go straight. You can go in at an angle, that's okay, but you always want to keep it going straight. You don't want to give it a wee bend, because that's when you're going to snap your needles. There you go. Also in your kit you'll have your frame to put around your finished picture. We'll do that nearer the end. But yeah, that's a quick and easy introduction to needle felting. The best way is just to get going. So let's do this. I'm going to repeat myself a lot today, and feel free to either speed me up. You can use there's arrows down the bottom to speed me up. You can shut me up, put me on mute. My parents love it. But let's get felting. Oh no, I've forgotten the most important thing. Oh my. So this is your fibre. So this is what we're going to make the picture with. And there's a couple of wee tricks for using this. So this has come off the sheep. It's been washed, dyed and brushed to form what is called tops or roving. And to work with it, we're going to work with little bits at a time. You're going to hear me saying this a lot, tiny amounts. So to get these tiny amounts out, all you're going to do is grab one end and pull, and a little bit will just naturally come off. Sometimes, if you have your hands too close together, you're not going to be able to pull it because you're pulling on both ends of the hair, so it's not going to come apart. So if you have your hands too close together, it's not going to pull, and if there's any twist in it, it's not going to come apart either, because twist is what holds it strong. So you want to make sure it's all lying parallel, your hands are nice and far apart, and you can just gently pull little bits. Perfect. That is now a quick and easy introduction to needle felting. So let's get felting. So for this picture here, we're going to do Tree Island, although the name is yet to be completely confirmed. I may end up changing the name of this to something to do with the cranog, and you will hopefully find out as I ramble my nonsense today why this is a cranog, possibly. But we're going to start felting this, and we're going to, as usual, for my lovely ladies I can see that have joined me before, we're going to start from the back and work to the front. And you'll see on your picture here, there's not really much information, because the first thing we're going to do is pretty much cover it all in blue. So any drawings I do on this are a little bit useless. So let's take the blue, and as usual, this is my favourite bit, we're going to fill in the sky with blue. So I've taken a little bit of my blue, I'm just kind of spreading it out a little bit so it covers more than the area. So I'm covering over the edge of my circle and just laying that down, and you can put less is more at the moment. So I've put a reasonable amount on just now, but we're just going to put down a base layer of the blue, and then I'm just stabbing it on, doop, doop, doop. And I've left them kind of parallel at the moment. I haven't scrunched them up or done anything exciting with them. We might do some things like that. I feel like I'm too high. Do some things like that later. So let's start just laying it down. Now, for those of you that are new, the act of felting is basically just stabbing. So as I'm stabbing through, you'll see the blue. Oh, hopefully you can see. I can see it. The blue is starting to come through this fibre and starting to lock in. And that is what is happening. So just now, we're just really gently felting it in. I'm not going too hard, too fast anywhere, because I want to build up the whole picture, and then I'll go back in afterwards and properly stab it and felt it in. So we've sketched out, should we say. We've laid down a foundation of blue at the top. We're definitely going to put more in. So if you think I'm moving a little bit fast just now, I kind of am, because we're putting a base layer down, and we're going to go back to all this later, so don't worry if yours isn't properly felted in. You can see mine's still super fluffy. And the nice thing about this is that if I want to change something, it's super easy to pull it up and move it around. So if you've made a miscalculation, should we say, not an error, but if you've made a miscalculation of where you wanted something to go, it's fine. We can shift it about. We can do no wrong just now. And maybe you meant to have it like that. Who knows? So there we go. I filled in almost all of this, apart from a little strip in the centre. You'll see on your template there's just one line. So just around, leave that little line and a little bit above it and a little bit below it unfelted. But remember to go over those edges so it's spilling over, because when we put it in the frame, you might want to wiggle around the placement and you might want to change stuff. There we go. Okay, part one. nice and easy. I'm just going to be... So now we're going to start, so we're doing from back to front. Kinda. We need to put some clouds in first. And I don't know where you'd consider clouds to be in the landscape. We're going to go quite light on the clouds. So this fluffy one it's got a little bit more life to it, a little bit more tangles. And it's, the technical term is slivers, so it's not quite as brushed as the rest of the tops. So I'm just going to take a tiny amount of this, spread it out over the sky and the water. It just gives sort of slight impressions of the sort of hazy winter landscape that we've got just now. And we might, I think I even did on the other one, go over this with some more blue in places. But the nice thing about felting, and what I love about felting, is that you're building up layer upon layer of colour. And even though you might not think it's going to be seen in the final thing, the subtlety is there. And it is the layering that really pops. There we go. Oh, I keep going up the screen today. So we've got our, I was going to say sea, but I mean it could be a sea loch. I think it's probably just a regular loch. We've got our sea and we've got our hills. So now we're going to put in some hills. Nope, we've got our sea and we've got our sky. Now we're going to put in some hills. Now your hills can be any shape you want them to be. If you have a specific hill that you like, please use that hill shape. I'm going to do just generic flattish hills. And with the hill, we've got two colours of green here. In my head, which is, you know, who knows what's going on in there, the sun is hitting the top of the hill, less so the bottom of the hill. So I'm going to put a little layer of the lighter green up the top and the darker green further down. Now they can spill over each other, that's no problem. That in fact is probably a good thing if they start spilling over each other, because then you get little shadows and highlights and things. So the darker green I've put at the bottom, the lighter green at the top again. I'm just using a little bit just now, and I'm going to build up the colour as I'm going. And that'll help to fade the transition between the top and the bottom of the hills as well. Because you'll have some little light bits in the bottom and some dark bits higher up. That is totally fine. But this is, so if you want your hills to come in down like that to a point or whatever, it's your felting picture. I'm merely here to guide. And I do love seeing all your pictures of finished felting. It makes me so happy every time. It really does. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit more shadow and depth. So I'm going to be brave and take the dark slivers here. And now when we're using this, I normally say a tiny amount. You know, you guys know this, how little I mean. When you're using this, even tinier than tiny is what you need. Like, think what you think it should be and then half it. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to lay this right along the water edge. There we go. And then same on the other side, so that you can see how, can you even see how tiny it is? The tiniest amount. Because we can always add in more later. Well, actually, we can take it away if we want to, but we can always add in more. It's better to build up a little bit and add in, I'm going to put a little bit more dark just up there, make a little forest. And even we are still, so in this one I've covered the hills in white to make a sort of snowy look, but I'm debating whether leaving the, I'm going to put the white in, see how it looks, but I am entirely liable to change my mind and not put the snow on the hills. So if you want a summery one, you don't have to put the snow on, or you can put the snow just up the top. All of these options are yours, but remember, the thing, this is supposed to be in the background, so we don't want too much attention to be paid to it. So I think for this one, I might just put snow on the top of the hills. Let's see how that looks. I'm quite happy to be entirely wrong and take it all back in 5 minutes. It's part of the joy of needle felting. I think I might be wrong. But look how easy it is to take it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same as I did before and just do the whole hill in snow. So to do that, you take your tiny, tiny amount of white and then spread it open even tinier so that it's just, so this little bit might even cover most of it. There we go. And can you see how tiny? There should, if I ever edit this video and cut it down, I'm going to do a count as how many times I say the word tiny in the whole hour. There we go. So that's just that white. So that white could be the mist, it can be snow, anything. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Perfect. And we can, and I probably will, go over it and add little bits, tidy it up, wiggle around, but we could just get in the outline. So far we have managed to do the sea, we've got the sky, we've got a line in the middle for the hills. Perfect. Let's take a sip of tea. Very important things. And then we're going to start on this island. So this island, you see these all over the lochs of Scotland. They are beautiful. They're just these tiny islands, but have these massive, normally fir trees on them. They're just green all year round, or sometimes they have deciduous trees, but they just have massive trees on them because there's been sort of no deer have been able to get to them to nibble them down. And they're just wonderful. And some people think that they are remains of crannogs, which is awesome. So crannogs are houses that were out on the water in long time ago times. The numbers have entirely escaped my head. Neolithic? Probably Neolithic. Please don't quote me on that. But they were built on stilts out in the water, and they were these lovely round houses, and they eventually ruined over time and sort of collected silt and things around them, and then sometimes these islands were formed. Is one theory, but please go fact check me, because I don't know anything. I just make felt pictures. So let's make I am going to call it a crannog from now on, so let's make our crannog island. So a good down to your thumb knuckle below the level of the bottom of the hills. I'm going to start with a dark green, I think. I'm going to take just a little sliver of it and maybe fold it sort of almost in half. So it's about that size. Let's have a look at it there. So, and this is the one where I'm going to get you to do a little bit of sort of eyeing it up yourself. So take your frame and hold it over and see if you like the sort of the vague size that is. And I'm quite happy with that size. So that's like the length of my thumb. back up there. So that's the size I'm going to make it. And I'm just going to gently felt the dark green at the base. Again, we're still really feeling about not doing too much, not trying to get it properly fixed. And we're going to take the lighter green and go a little bit higher this time. Again, the lighter green's on top because I think the sun would be hitting it more to make our little island. And again, we're going to take the brown. I don't know how many times I've said this. I think I should get a thesaurus and look up alternative. In fact, in the comments, somebody shout out a different word for tiny so that I can use it. A tiny bit of the darker brown. I'm going to place that at the bottom of the island. So now you've got your, basically mirroring what's behind it. Light on top, brown in the middle. Yeah, ooh, light on top, light green in the middle. And then, no words, I can do this. Light on top, dark green in the middle, brown on the bottom. And you can go, I like to go a little bit heavier, I think. No, I'm going to leave, oh, not too much. There we go. There we go. Right, now the fun bit. I'm gonna be brave and start putting in, oh, am I still on screen? Yep, start putting in some trees. So, I was about to say something very obvious, but I'm not gonna do it. Please feel free to mute me. It's been a long day and I'm just quite happy to be here rambling nonsense. So we're going to start off with the dark brown. And we're going to grab tree size amounts. And I'm going to do, so you can see they're super thin, about as thin. Here's a good example. When you twist them slightly in your hand, they're about as thin as the needle tip at the moment. There we go, that's a good measure. So I'm going to twist them slightly, starting in the middle-ish. I'm going to lay that down and just really gently just now, we are going to add more on, add our first tree. So you can have your trees as tall or as short as you want. Make sure they fit in the in your frame, because that would be unfortunate if your trees were trying to escape. Oh, am I squinty? If your trees were trying to escape. And we're just going to repeat this process. I like to make the trees sort of a dome. So, tallest one's in the center. So imagine in nature the tallest one will have sprouted up and then getting shorter as they go to the sides. Again, I'm just going to, as I'm tacking it down, I'm just kind of holding it, letting it follow a natural sort of straight path. So I'm probably going to do 5, 6. You can do as many or as little trees as you want. You can have them going as tall, you can have them going down at an angle, play around. Oh, stay. And trees are sort of naturally slightly thicker at the base than they are at the top, so don't worry if there's a slight, if at the bottom I'm kind of doubling it up, just because it's easier that way and it kind of gives it a sturdier base that's going into the root ball. No, I'm just making up words now. So my last, and you can have like a stumpy one at the side if you want. Your options are open. I know it does look a little bit odd just now, but that is okay. There we go. So I've got my weird skeletal trees. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I kind of did 7 in the other one, so I could go a little bit wider. Do I want to go a little? I might do a little short one on the side, and maybe make a bush out of it. Why not? There we go. So, we have a couple of trees. What time are we at? Ah, plenty of time. So let's start popping in some leaves to make these. Oh, no. Before we pop into leaves, one very important thing. The light. So we're going to grab the lighter brown, the softer brown, and you're going to pick a side, left or right. I'm doing them on the left for no reasons known to me. And I'm going to go over each of the trees and try and keep it still going over the brown. So we're going over the darker brown if I can, so it doesn't get too wide, but trying to keep it on the left hand side. We're doing a little shadow, and don't worry if there's like I've just done here, I've got too much extra at the bottom. I'm just going to make it go into the grass, and that kind of pulls it in and makes fake roots almost. So this is us putting some light hitting the tree. And we're going to do this to all of the trees that are going up. Just make some, just that tiny little, there's that word again, little sliver. And if you cover up all of the dark brown, you can always add more, or you can just let them be lighter trees. Don't stress. I do quite like it when it goes into the ground. It pulls it down and grounds it into the earth. There we go. And again. It's precision stabbing now. But if it is wonky, don't worry in the slightest. Because just say it was a wonky tree that you were copying. I'm 100% behind wonkiness. If some have more sun or others, that's also totally fine. And a lot of this, I know we're spending a reasonable amount of time doing this little bit to just literally cover it up. But it's the fact that it's there is the important bit. And if we hadn't done it, you would really notice. So now we get to, now I've got my brown with the lighter brown down the sides. And now it's time to pop in all our fun leaves and make it look like a tree. Again, we've got the two greens, so we're going to aim, I've said this a lot of times this video, to put lighter-ish at the top and the darker-ish on the bottom. But to do that, we want to build up a base of the darker green. So for most of these, we've been laying them flat, sort of straight up and down, straight sideways. We're going to scrumple these this time. So you're going to take a tiny bit of the dark green, and in your hands, pardon me, scrumple it up. Hopefully you can see me just making a mess of it. letting it go wild. And then I'm going to pop that down. I'm letting it kind of be the shape it wants to be as well just now. Popping it down and starting making some canopy. Not canapes. Have I had dinner yet? But scrumpling up a little bit more. Popping it on the top of a tree. So if we are imagining these are, so say this, like let's deep dive into this picture. So there's a winter scene. So they're probably not deciduous trees. They're probably, I was about to say carnivore trees, but that is entirely the wrong word. Conifers? Words. So there'll be spruces and things. So they might still have their leaves. They'll hopefully still have their leaves just now, which is why we can do the canopy. So they're sort of vaguely aiming for a triangular-ish shape. Like not in any real specific way. And also, see what I've done here? I've left a little blue sky gap. Now this is the really important bit. We don't want to fill all this with green. You'd be surprised how little green we're going to put on to give the full tree-ness of it. And also feel free, especially because we're putting it down, felting it down so lightly just now, you can pull it off really easily and swap places. You can try out different layouts. Like it's not fixed just now. If it's not working, pull it off and pop it down another way. I'm going to put this little guy down there and take, oh, I haven't said this yet. Oh my god, there's two very important points that we have not yet covered. Point 1, every so often pull this up. It might distort your picture. It has wonderfully distorted mine. At this stage you can just reshape it and get it going flat again, and you look at the back, it's all fluffy. You can see the felting is working. Also give it a good smoosh with your hands. That'll kind of start to hide any needle marks. That was point 1. What was point 2? It'll come back to me. Oh yes, that was still very much just now laying out colours and shapes and textures and just very gently felting this in. We're going to get everything laid out today, but then it's a really good idea to, before you properly spend a good sort of half hour stabbing, felting it all in really well, is to take a photograph of it, hold it up, hold it at different angles, look at it in the mirror, come back with fresh eyes with a cup of tea, and just see if there's anything you want to change, if there's anything you're not happy with. Or if you're not happy with it, step away for a while, come back and go, actually it's wonderful. So tonight we're just getting the groundwork there, leave it, and then come back tomorrow or in a couple of days and then give it a proper good felting. I'll show you that at the end, don't worry, before popping it into your frame. So let's add in another layer of canopy. Maybe about here. Just a little bit. Because these trees are just very sculptural trees, they tend to be. If you have an island that you really like, if you want to do some Googling, you can Google and find your favourite tree island. I know when I was working on the steam train popping up and down to Malig every day, there was some stunning islands and I just couldn't get enough of them. I'm so far so good. I'm actually quite happy with the amount of trees and the balance. So I've accidentally balanced it reasonably well, I think. Feel free to correct me. So it's kind of coming down that way, and then we've got the lower one there that's balancing the two sides out. So it's looking reasonably natural. And if you want to do tiny branches, you can. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I worry that'll be too much fuss. But we've got a nice balance going there. So I'm going to add in some of the light green on the top of all these clusters that I'm happy with. So again, we're going to take a tiny amount, scrumful to your heart's content. You can even take a tiny amount of both colours, the lighter and the darker green, and scrumful. I just love that word. I really hope you've muted me by now. Scrumful them together so that it blends them slightly. So when you're putting them down, it's not like a solid light green patch. Now this might not come up as much on camera as it does in real life, but it does make such a difference. So I've taken two bits of a bit of the light, a bit of the darker green, scrumful them together and add them on. And I'm not too worried if I am layering up this trees, the foliage, quite thickly, like layer after layer to create different lights and stuff. I'll just make it pop more. It'll look almost sort of semi 3D. So again, I'm going to take some of my lights, some of my darks, scrumple them, and aim for the top. This bush is going to be a lighter bush, I think, because that's what's happened, so I'm just going to roll with it. Although I'm losing my stock. Is this bush falling off the edge of the water? It is now. So these little, this is one of my favourite bits, is the adding in tiny specks of, I have to stop saying tiny, right, I'm going to put a board up with the word tiny and a big cross through it or something, and then other words I could use. So this is a bit I enjoy, just this messing around, adding in small amounts, putting in a bit of texture here, a bit of texture there. Just seeing what a little. So if you think you've put too much, you can either take it off or you can add more of the darker on top. If you're adding more and layering up more, it's adding in textures and effects. So I'm going to take the dark brown and then trying to think of another word than the word I've just banned for myself. 2 or 3 hairs, wool fibres worth, and add them at the bottom of each of the clusters to give it a little bit of shadow at the bottom. You can start small and build up. And you can sort of outline. If you want different bits to be on different trees, you can add little outlines, and it just gives it some definition. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so I was just telling you guys to take it away, photograph it, look at it in the mirror, look at it backwards. So I do that when I'm doing these videos by looking in so I can see this all on one of my monitors. So I look in my monitor, which gives me a fresh view and kind of fresh eyes, so I can see, because I'm looking at this at an angle and the monitor's looking straight down like what you're seeing. I'm looking at it there to give my eyes a break and a fresh perspective. And I was just looking going, yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with how it's looking just now. And this is the fluffy stage, because you've got to get past the fluffy stage before you can get to the really happy stage. Okay, so I've sketched out an island. I've got my little treesies, a little bush, and now the thing that's going to make it, so we grounded the trees in the landscape by letting the brown go slightly into the green. I still might work on, I think I'm going to work on the island a little bit more, but we need to ground the island into the loch, because at the moment it's kind of sitting there and the water behind it is also kind of sitting there. So we need to pop in some reflections, my favourite thing to do. So the reflections we're going, oh no, this word again. I'm going to use as little as possible. So I'm just going to take, we're basically mirroring what's in here, but squishing it down and leaving gaps. So I'm going to take the brown, the dark brown, and every time there's a tree up there, I'm going to leave a gap that is maybe 1/2 centimetre before I put a super thin line of brown. Again, there's a tree there, leaving a gap, popping the tree down there, tree there, leaving a gap, popping the tree. And then we've got our first sets of trees. So we're going to put in a little bit of green and we're going to put in the island as well. So I'm going to take the darker green and just below that gap, so we've still got the wee centimetre gap, I'm going to pop a little line of the darker green. Doesn't have to be straight, that can be a little bit wonky. Again, a little bit of the lighter green. I don't know why I'm suddenly quiet and concentrating really hard. Maybe the shadows are the most fun part. And we're going to mirror the foliage, the canopy, not a canopy, canopy. So we're wanting it to be quite squished because we want it to fit inside the frame. So remember, it'll be the outside size. So I need it to be quite sort of short there. Now when you're popping this in the frame, it will, you've got sort of a little bit of wiggle room. You can move it around a little bit. But I'm just going to mirror what we've got there. Again, so I've got my bush there, so I'm going to mirror with a bit more green there. Again, I also said again a lot today. You definitely want to be able to see the blue through here. And we're going to do my secret trick to water reflections. We're going to take a bit of the water blue and we're going to add it on top. So I'm going to do, because you know when there's tiny little waves that just break up the reflection. So I'm adding one there. Hopefully you can see that. So I've just taken a little bit of the lighter blue and laid it across there. Gonna add one into there as well, and that just breaks up the green and takes away a little bit, gives it a little reflection-y, broken-y. Love it. I actually want to move that up just a tiny bit. This is why it's brilliant that we haven't done it down too far. So it's a little bit closer to the water, and then that can move up there. You can move up there. And we've got our little reflections. I feel like you're slightly the wrong shape. Yeah. Congratulations, you have a reflection. We can also pop a tiny one in there if you like. I did on the other one, and it has bothered me slightly. I think I might like it better without the reflection of the hill. So I'm literally just laying it on and sort of stepping back and having a look. What do we think? I think I prefer it without. I'm going to do one with this one here and one without, and just leave that reflection there. Oh, my chair is sliding away. Help. Okay, everything is blocked out. There's nothing missing, I don't think. Let's have a quick... Now is the perfect time to have our first go at popping it in the frame. So before we lay anything down, sort of stab anything in, sounded violent, stab anything in properly, let's pop it in the frame and see how it looks. So the easiest way to get it in the frame is if you take away the mat and do it on a hard surface, because if you're trying to squish it into the mat, it all goes a bit wrong. So you take, so when you've got your frame here, you unscrew this screw until, oh, wrong way, unscrew it by grabbing that there until it's almost all the way out. You need basically the full room, and then you just pop out this centre bit, and this centre bit we're going to pop underneath of your picture, and then using your fingers feel where it is in relation to your design, and then all you're going to do is pop that over, and that shows you what you're going to see in your... I really like the layout of this, what you're going to see in your final picture. Now I like to give it a good smoosh so it's nice and in, so you can see that it's in line. I'm quite happy. I'm really happy with the layout of that. My shadows are going where I want them to be. The trees are looking good and nice and prominent. Say you've now finished this, you've gone away, you've had your day's rest, you've gone back, you've done a good half an hour of good old stabbing to felt it all in really well. At this point, you would re-tighten up this little contraption at the top until it's as tight as you can go. And then all you have to do to finish it off is, you've got all this extra material at the side, is to take a pair of scissors, chop it off, and because it's nice and tight, it's not going to go anywhere. You've got your finished picture ready to go on your wall. But we're not quite at that stage yet. I've just shown you how to do it. So you're ready when you... Ooh, seeing that out of focus. There's such a big difference between the two. In real life there's less of a difference, but I think it's the way my lights are set up at the moment. It's also very dark today. I don't know why I'm surprised. But I'm gonna noodle around a little bit longer on this. So it's what, we have 50 minutes. So we've got roughly 10 minutes left. I'm going to do 10 minutes of noodling, of talking random nonsense at you. And then I'm going to go get my dinner. So I'm going to take all 3 of the needles I have in this one. I'm going to go over the whole thing. Just stabbing. I'm holding them all together and just giving it a good once over. And you'll see differences. You'll see stuff starting to take shape. as you're doing this. You might see gaps emerge, like I've got a little gap there where there's no blue, so I'll pop that in. I've also missed the top of that tree that hasn't got, ooh, hiccup, hasn't got the light green on it. But this is the stage it's all going to start to feel like it's coming together. So when I was looking to design this one, I was like, right, I want to do a tree island. I love the tree islands. And it wasn't until I was sort of Googling about that I found out that they might be cranogs, and that's so exciting. And these amazing structures that people used to live on out and over the water. The Cranog Centre near just further south of here, where you can visit an actual Cranog. Again, I want to make sure that gap started to disappear, but I want to make sure that gap is there. I might put another there we go. Oh, I like that going down that way. Okay, so bear with me on this thought. I've been talking nonsense for 50 minutes. I'm allowed to make even less nonsense. We're kind of making bonsai. It's a bonsai island. So you can play with the structure. You can even, in fact, that would be some quite good reference. If you wanted to have different sort of structured island, you could look up bonsai trees. I also want to make sure that there's a gap. That bush was looking a bit high. Even now that I've felted it a little bit better, I'm still enjoying sort of tugging and pulling them around to put them into a different place. It's still quite flexible. Okay, so what were the things? Oh, I needed to put some green there. Light green. I hope you're enjoying felting as much as I am right now. It is so much fun. There we go, because I'm concerned that this bit here is falling into my hill. So is it my hill? No, I think that should definitely be some tree. I'm going to add a little bit more of the darker green and pull the base of this little thing down a little bit so that it's much more behind, and to make it stand even, make it pop even more, I'm going to take a bit more of the white and just outline it in the white so that it really pops forward. And again, see, this is the little micro adjustments that make everything just so much fun. Do I want? No, I don't. Also, that tree's gone a little bit wonky, but I like it. I'm going to put a little bit more shadow a darker green just at the base of the trees. Am I? Nope, I can't. Get in there, you. There we go. A little bit more lighter, slightly further forward. Now your trees, you want the base of the root, nope, I'm just saying words again. You might want to vary where they go into the ground. So some are further forward and some are further back. I think I'm going to do that now. There we go. So I've added, and I don't know if it shows up as much on camera as it does in real life. I've put a little layer of darker green over the top there with the lighter green and then the darker green below. And that kind of gives it a little bit of depth. Let's go with depth. I'm going to make this center tree come a little bit further forward and be a little bit more prominent. So I'm just going to add another layer of the dark brown. Pull it down a little bit further, and that gives it some depth to the island. I could literally be here for like 3 or 4 hours just playing. The more you play up to a certain extent, the better it gets. It's when knowing when to stop is the hardest part for me, because I just want to keep playing. So I've taken the lighter brown again and added a bit more of that onto this center tree. There we go. And now that green needs to, that bit of, is that okay going behind it? I think that might be okay going behind it. I feel like this front one might need something else. There we go. So I've put in a tiny little speck more green there. So that right hand side one's going behind that middle tree, but this middle tree's got a separate little bit of canopy. You can tell I'm hungry. I keep saying canopy. Canopy. Do I need to put a little bit? You know what I was saying a second ago about when you should stop? Nah. Okay. Technically, in 2 minutes we've done our full hour. I try and keep these to an hour so that it's not too much. So in theory, if I was listening to myself, in 2 minutes I would stop. But you guys, I'm sure have done amazingly. I'm so excited to see them. Please pop them. Nope, don't like that. I think I like that better like that. Put them on the Facebook group. The link is in the description. I'm going to do that horrible YouTube thing where asking you to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it all. I've had so much fun tonight. I'm really happy with this. I think I'm going to overrun by a couple of minutes. Let's be naughty. I'm going to quickly give it a little bit of a felting all over before we pop it in the frame and say, oh, there's that little extra bit of blue I need to pop in. And I'm going to let this blue go over my shadow. And I'm even going to let it go over the white. That's totally fine. And for those of you that are Harry Potter fans, I believe looks a little bit like Dumbledore's Island. But there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. I am obviously going to step away from it tonight. I'm going to say I'm done. It's dinner time. I'm going to come back tomorrow probably and spend maybe another half an hour fiddling about, giving it a good felt all over. See, I can tell it's not properly felted because it's still very easy to pull it up around. When I've gone over it for a bit longer, it'll feel a bit stiffer. It won't move as much. But give it a good... Ooh, I'm just shaking everything. Give it a good pat. All your needle marks will magically fade slightly. So let's put this in the frame and say we made a bonsai island, and that makes me very happy. Ooh. Just gonna close this up. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And if I tuck the ends behind, you'll never know. So let's make a final pretty... Oh, I think I just got some wool in my tea. Pretty picture at the end. But I cannot wait to see all of your pictures. I'm so proud of you. But there we have it. Oh, do I want to put this in it? Nah. Get out of the way. There we go. Tree Island. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have as much fun as I have. Happy New Year to you all. Let us make it full of felting this year. But I'm going to over and out and go and get my dinner. Have a brilliant one. Thank you, my squeeze.